Hello and welcome to Hello World Tutorial Part 1. We're going to implement our first server object. It's called HelloSO. And what we will see here is that the client is going to send over a message, and the message will be of type my name is with the parameter name equals world. And HelloSO is going to receive this message and then update its variable greeting to be hello and whatever the name that came in this case world. And so to get started, you should go through the quick start page to get Game Plumbing Framework up and running within a Unity project. And so I have a project here. And as a first step, we're going to want to delete a couple of folders that actually have the Hello World example inside of them. So in Assets Game Plumbing, we're going to delete this example folder, and we're going to delete this server object folder. And now we're going to start building Hello World from scratch. This time we're going to put it one click up inside Assets. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a ServerObjects folder. And ServerObjects is a pretty important folder to Game Plumbing Framework, so we need to tell Game Plumbing Framework about it. So we go to Settings, and then let's say find folder, assets, server object. And it's important that you use this UI and don't just try to type it in, because it might not actually find the right folder. So seems like it found it. Perfect. We can close this. We can now create our first server object. And we do that by finding Game Plumbing Framework and saying server object. And notice I've clicked the server objects folder. So I'm going to rename this to HelloSO. And let's get in there. We'll see that there's some template code, but we're just going to paste over that. With this. Okay, so what's going on here? Greeting equals what's your name, and then now we have this. My name is server object message defined, and we're not really doing anything. So we're gonna kind of build this out as we test it, which brings us to the next thing we have to do, which is create our test folder. And so we're going to create a folder called editor, because tests run in the editor. So it's key that it's called editor. And then you can right click on editor and you say create, and let's go to Game Plumbing Framework, server object test. We're going to call this HelloSO test. Double click on it. It's got some pre-generated code in there, but we're just going to replace it with our stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at this test. First thing it does is goes over to our ID store, and it gets an ID, and then it says syncer.sync with that ID. Basically, at this point, we're getting a handle to the server object, so we can look at variables inside and kind of bind to those variables as well. So then we say, okay, let's send hello, my name is, and it's defined in HelloSO. We've gone over that object, and we set name equal to world. And we're doing a syncer.sendWait. Syncer is the object that controls our dialogue with server objects. And sendWait means that we're not going to get to the next line until HelloSO has actually processed this. That makes it, gives us the ability to actually test things. And then when all is said and done, we're going to say, does HelloSO dot greeting equal hello world? And that's our goal for today. So let's try it out. Let's come here and we go to Window, um, General, Test Runner. Here's our test that we just looked at. Run the test, and it's failing as it's supposed to. Um, okay, bad paste. All right, let's try this again. I expect this to fail a ton, and we're just going to get it to work. That's actually how we wrote the tutorial. Okay, so now it's failing because you need to register hello world sos.helloso. So, and it even gives us the attribute to do that. So let's copy this. Basically, whenever you have an SO, you need to register it, and registering it is giving it a prefix for its IDs. So our prefix is going to be hello. Um, so basically, when we say get ID hello SO, now it knows that, return something with hello slash as the ID. So let's run this again. Okay, trying to sync to non-syncable. So what does that mean? Well, here we're saying we want to sync to a hello SO, and by default you cannot do that. So you have to actually come in and make ServerObjects syncable, because you'll have some ServerObjects that you will want to just communicate with other ServerObjects and not with the client. So if you want the client to have access to it, you can turn it on as syncable. And let's run this again. Okay, now we're actually cooking with fire, but it says I expected hello world, but I got what's your name. So let's look at code. We are not handling the message right now, so we're supposed to handle it by setting greeting to hello whatever. So that won't work until we add that code. Um, and here it is. So I'm just going to copy. Okay. One thing I like to do is have the definition for the object right above the handler for that object. Also notice all of our handlers are called handler, and what allows us to figure out which one to use is actually the message, the message object type. So it's kind of inverted in that way, but that's how server objects message each other. And yeah, it looks like this code should work. So let's run it. Run. Okay, and it still says what's your name. And if we look at this error, there will be a hint buried in here. And here it is. It says received unhandled message. Hello so.my name. My name is not allowed to handle messages from client. Okay, so just like we saw with syncable, this guy by default cannot handle messages from client, because as we said, a lot of SOs, they just talk to each other. They don't necessarily have to talk to the client. But in this case, we wanted to talk to the client, so we have to whitelist it from client. So now let's run it again. Okay, and everything worked. And that's great, but we want to do a little bit better, because what we did so far is we've run it against the simulated backend, not the real backend. And that's perfect for developing. You get to develop fast. But now we want to run it against the real backend, which means we have to deploy our server object to the real cloud. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to just deploy. And this usually takes a few minutes. Um, I'll probably skip ahead in the YouTube so you don't have to wait with me. And once it says successfully created stack, we know we're good. So now, instead of backend type equals simulated, we can say backend type equals cloud, and we can run this test again, and it's going to use the actual cloud that we've just deployed to. And that took a little longer, but again, we passed. So congratulations. In this course, you just created your first server object. You made it work locally, and you wrote a test, which is really important. We like to test everything we do. Every server object gets a test, at least one test, usually more. And then we were able to deploy that to the actual cloud and see that our test turned green in both cases. I hope you join us for our next part, where we will be going over viewing the traces. After that, we'll talk about how do you hook UI up, and then we'll just wrap it up in part 4. Okay, thank you so much.